Friends, what I want to talk about today is the fact that women cheat more than men. I know you're in disbelief. Our whole society and social fabric is rooted in the idea that men are cheaters and they're bad and they can't control themselves. But that's not true. That's not true. When I say cheating, I'm not even talking about emotional affairs. When I say cheating, and you're going to call me a liar, Bill Clinton made it famous to say, I did not have with that woman, poster boy for an affair. But since 2001, women have been having outside their marriages more than men. That's astounding to me. I've known this for a long time because I'm an expert in this field, but it does not penetrate the consciousness of society. That's actually what's going on. So often it's portrayed stereotypically. Women, victim, man can't keep his in his pants. It's all a lie. But men, aside from focusing on that lie, because that'll be a different topic, a different day. What I want to talk about right now is, men, how do we allow this to happen? How do we allow this to happen? The women are cheating more than us. Shouldn't it be balanced at least? But it's more and increasingly so over the years. Why is this happening? How are we allowing this to happen? One reason, again, this may sound stereotypical, but some stereotypes, some rooted in some realities. Otherwise, it wouldn't be all over TV and sitcoms. But the reality is, men don't appear as interested as women are in asking questions about where they were, what they did. Or they ask, they're not as attentive. They're not looking for gaps in the stories. They're not questioning. They're just hearing the story because of a blind trust, because that's how men are typically raised to see women, to have this blind trust. With that in mind, women don't have that. So they ask questions. Men get caught more. Women can do the cheating. Number two, we have lost our assertiveness to avoid being distracted in conversations. So we can start questioning our spouses, our partners, our girlfriends, our wives, whatever. But then there's a distraction that happens, talking about something else to throw you off the topic. Oh, no, I wasn't there. What are you talking about? We're blah, 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 blah. But we're not encouraged to be as assertive anymore to stay on topic because we're afraid of being labeled as controlling. You're controlling me. You're not giving me any freedom. I don't think we belong together. Is this a domestic issue? Should I call the police? You're such a controlling man. You have anger issues. All the while, wife, girlfriend, whatever your terminology is lying to you. But you're the bad guy for calling them out. And then you get called out enough times and you stop doing that. You stop with the call out. A third reason that this has happened is that the male ego, the male self-esteem has been on decline. I would say, especially since we men have been labeled the world problem falsely, especially white men. We're the cause of every problem that exists in this world. Even if your partner's cheating, somehow it's got to be your fault. Women have been oppressed for millions of years. It had nothing to do with what happened over the last couple of weeks where someone chose to cheat and then blames you for it. Again, you can't really say anything because you're going to be labeled as controlling, form of reactionary abuse. The person is the liar, then you flip out, but you're blamed for your freak out. But again, it's part of the dynamics why women are cheating more than men. Men don't want to go through that dynamic and are afraid to go through that dynamic. Think of a public scenario now. Reason number 4 that I want to make small reference to. Picture old school. You're in a bar setting or coffee shop, or wherever people meet people, not online, but we can use online as an example. Compared to the past, men are now afraid to approach women, or at least increasingly afraid to approach women. Imagine the scenario where you're in a setting, woman is activating erotic power, meaning she's looking at herself and says, hey, I want to look tonight. I go out because I, in part, want to feel good about myself. But number 2, I'm trying to attract someone. Enter the man. Maybe he's married because we're talking about cheating here. In the past, he may not have been as afraid to approach this woman, but now he is, because if he does, he might get called out for her. Now, there aren't that many instances where men have a strong reaction to being by a woman and have a negative reaction. Like statistically, it's going to be lower. Or if you look at your everyday life, it's going to be lower. But what's going to happen here in this dynamic, man, woman, oh, you're just a addict. You're a cheater. You're whatever. What I want to talk about now is the alpha male. The alpha male has images of strength, confidence, and virility, but society has preferred a different kind of male now. It's been replaced with the sensitive male, the sensitive, gentle, passive, more emotional. And with that, this passivity, there's an increase in usage in men. Whereas in the alpha male, there's less need because they're more likely to cheat. But now there's less alpha males than before. Because the alpha male, the proud, straight person who's assertive, driven, confident, is considered lesser than in a societal context than the gentle, more effeminate man who can have these conversations that say that the alpha man is stereotypically labeled incapable of having. With this in mind, I can't believe this. Women are cheating more than men. They have since 2001. That's over 20 years. Men, what's wrong with us? We got to step it up. We need equality. Jokes aside, cheating is wrong. Doesn't matter your sex or your gender. And obviously, I don't endorse anyone cheating because betrayal is awful. It's just awful for a relationship. It's awful for the person being betrayed. But even the person who's doing the betraying, you start carrying these secrets, this shame, and you cause all these other fights. You can't be present at home. The cheater's life is one that it's an inauthentic life, but I'll talk about that in another video. Today, I just wanted to highlight how women cheat more than men because it's so countercultural in our belief system. And of course, my specialties are in the treatment of preventing cheating, stopping repeat offenders, helping couples recover when this actually happens. But in my therapy room, it's usually a male cheater. Where do the females go? I assume they go nowhere because they're not caught. They're not pressed hard enough, like for the reasons that I mentioned. I want to go back to more of like my joking nature for a second. Back to like maybe we'll call it a barroom thought. We'll call it a joke. We'll call it a parable. Let's look at it more like returning to this idea of I can't believe this happened, where we can look at what I'm about to say as a Shakespearean jester, where there's like a half truth here. And that is, I never thought a woman's would have a longer reach than a man's.